And now on with the session. I'm pleased to welcome today's speaker, Ron Procopio.
You're way too kind. You haven't heard what I'm going to do yet. You might regret that clapping. So, who here is in sales? You didn't know, read the description? No, seriously, that's a good amount if you actually have sales in your title. But it's the others that I'm really interested in, obviously, today. So let's see if this thing actually works. It does. So today, everyone is in sales. Whether you believed it or not, you are. I already jumped ahead. I already asked the question before I got it. I had to add a little Glenn Ross to this. If you haven't seen the movie, watch the movie. Who am I? Why am I up here? Why are you listening to me? Because now I have to sell myself. I went to Northeastern University for my undergrad, Johnson & Wales for my MBA in organizational leadership, and I have worked for those established companies in a variety of roles. I started out doing conference coordination, and then moved on to doing ops and registration coordination and exhibitor services. I did some more ops, and then I got a job in sales. Oddly enough, I did not know I had taken a job in sales when I accepted the offer. They just turned to me and said, "It'll be great to see what the show looks like after you're done with it." And I was like, all right. So you learn, you figure it out. So I became a sales manager. I was also managing the operations, and I started to guide their marketing from an organization that was 52 years old, but was really static in that copy and paste sort of mold. I came from Informa and EH Publishing, who had done very large events. I'd already been on 2 of the fastest 50 in America. So to come into a nonprofit with that sort of model was a big shakeup, as you can imagine. But it was a lot of fun. And I currently work now on the service side of things with Shepherd Exposition Services. So what I'm going to try and do is challenge you guys today to think about people in your office as if they were salespeople. Meaning, looking at your office staff, right? We'll look at each one of these individually. So obviously your sales, and I always put sales and marketing together. They have the cohesive message, they're the outgoing of what the show looks like. Your accounting people, believe it or not, are salespeople. Content, operations, web developers, and then admin, who could be your receptionist and such. Then, I'm sure we've heard about it in some other sessions this week, event stakeholders. These are people that are involved in your event, but they're not on your staff. So they're your presenters, your exhibitors, your sponsors, your attendees, vendors, believe it or not, your Shepherd Exposition Services, your GESs of the world. They have a stake in this. They want to see your show succeed. The city, the CBBs, they want to see your show succeed. Those restaurants need those people to come in. Company owners, this refers to obviously larger companies, your Informants of the world, your Reeds, that have members and stockholders. So I wanted to start out with a case study of how accounting, in particular, can be considered. So they typically are dealing with money, obviously, right? Cancellations and collections is probably the biggest area that they would come into the sales cycle. They're getting the bad side of the sale. This case study fascinated me. A restaurant in Myrtle Beach was sold and a new person bought it. The new owners weren't accepting a coupon that was created from the old owners. Some customer comes in, offers this coupon up, which was 2 dinners for half price, so like 2 for 1. The owner came out and said, "I'm sorry, this is not a coupon, we can't honor it, we'll give you a dessert for free." The person ended up fighting them back and forth and proceeded to go to them online and try to destroy their image. They didn't accept that as an option for them. Then the owner turns around and sues the person who did that as disparaging their company. Could have just taken the coupon, right? So in that regard, that person they weren't thinking about the longer strategy of this relationship. Yes. Were they right to not honor the coupon? Absolutely. You didn't have to. It was not the right for the long-term thinking. They weren't thinking of the sale. It could have been very easy to walk into that situation. This isn't our coupon, but I'm going to honor it for you. Thanks a lot. That social media turns around entirely. Now they're saying, this is really cool. This person didn't have to do that for me. They did something for me. Okay, I lost $15 on the sale. But the goodwill that was developed, the social media that we're all paying for with our advertising, it's free. That's the viral stuff. And that's the sort of thinking that we need to do in the event management world, is not think so much on the microcosm, the small minutia, and think about the longer relationships. So ways in which we can strategize this. Be accommodating. Think about shifting funds. It stinks. We all have budgets, right? You get an exhibit that calls up and says, I can't go to the show. Or, I screwed up, I signed up, I didn't mean to. Or, they could be a total jerk. I don't want to do your show. Okay, that happens. How can I take that money and shift it? One of the things I used to say was, I don't want you to lose value. It really does mean something to me that you're taking the time and investing in our organization. How can I take that money that you have and use it somewhere else that gives you something? So maybe they don't want to go to the show, you give them a sponsorship, you do an e-blast, you do a whatever, right? You look through your portfolio of what do you have and how can you take that value and give them something for it. It's accommodating. It's letting them know that you care about their money. And that does go a long way. Adjusting pricing for the current year, not as much fun. Again, you've got a budget, you've got a line. In 2019, you're expected to make this amount of money. I just got hamstrung. And there's nothing you can do about it. They're not going to come back if you say, nope, this is the situation. It's $2,000, that's what you owe. Okay, you can try that, but it's really short-term thing. So we lost. Open explanation. I do believe in transparency in a big way. You can tell a customer, you really put me in a tough spot. It's okay to say that. You can say, you're the product of the show. You're what I'm selling, and now I've lost you. And that's really hard. It's okay for them to understand that their decision impacts you. Now, it's not, you shouldn't guilt them. I mean, I've got an Irish Catholic mom, believe me, Irish guilt we know about. You don't have to do that. But you can let them know the circumstance. And what it does is it's this communication, it's trust. It's back and forth, they believe you, they'll trust you. And maybe next time they come back, maybe next time they don't come back, but at least you have an open understanding between yourself and that organization. Content. Along the lines of products, your presenters, your sessions, they are the product. That's what we're selling, right? We sell conference programs, we sell, obviously content, networking, and Expo, but it is part of that equation. So we need presenter support, we need presenter recruiters, and by using strategies of activating recruiters. I'm sure we've talked about this throughout this entire conference. How do we get our presenters to be engaging and letting people know that they should be coming to your event? They are giving you credibility. They're finding more attendees to come to it, right? We offer them codes. We offer them all different kinds of ways to get their people there. Use their Rolodex. Does anybody actually know what a Rolodex is? Or am I too old? So I could be dating myself there. And ways to do that, communications. You've got to be out there letting them know. Actually, this show was really good. I was getting a bulletin every month, every 3 weeks or so, letting me know what's going on. This is what's going to be coming up in the next month. I expect these. Here are very open and clear deadlines. Make sure that you're asking. People are sometimes too afraid to even get the words out there. It's okay to ask. You don't get it unless you ask. And those presenters should feel that there is a responsibility for what they're doing as part of the show. And lastly, be excited. It's your show. I can tell you that much of my success as a salesperson, my last show that I was working on, 180 exhibitors at USITT, we turned into 375. It's getting out there and believing in your show. When you walk away from them, they're like, oh, that guy really loves what he's doing. That's kind of cool. You know, maybe I should think about that a lot more. It really does have a giant impact by being pumped up about what you're doing. Operations, the rules regulator. You're the bad cop. It's not fun to do that. I can tell you, I was working an event and you're doing the operations load in, and on radio I'm calling for my sales guy because I've got an exhibitor that's furious about whatever, and a million reasons that it's happened. And I would be calling for this guy, Patrick, need you over at this booth, radio silence. I'm like, he's doing this to me on purpose because he wants me to deal with this problem, even though the sales guy should be coming in to be the good cop, right? So it's tough to be that person that has to put a smile on your face, let them vent at you, and still retain the relationship. So operations, again, you're the journey mapper. You're thinking about what is that experience like for an attendee, not only virtually, but when they come to the front door all the way through the event. And that is part of the sales process. They should have a warm and welcoming feeling, the attendee, and they want to leave with a warm and welcoming feeling. And it's not necessarily all about the content and the networking. Some of us here, I'm sure, have had to deal with design. Your design impacts. So that's a big part of what's going on there. You are the liaison for both vendors and exhibitor services. That is part of the sales role. Whether you're answering the questions of how do I register my staff, or you're talking to your audiovisual vendor and saying, well, I have 180 exhibitors and here's their contact information, and maybe you can have a contact that's local, another association that's like me. You build relationships with the vendors that can assist you in growing your event. So be accommodating, be understanding. I had a garage door open up in Dallas once, a wind came through and blew over this guy's TV. Yep, happened. He just bought it too at Best Buy. Literally just bought it, put it on the thing. It was kind of not a smart move, but it happened. You gotta understand. So how can I help him? How can I do something that's gonna make him remember me and come back? You know what's funny is that he actually, you know the Skyline exhibit boxes, the plastic tubs, which was empty because he had the Skyline exhibit behind him? He put the TV on top of that, so there's no weight in the TV. So the rest of us that all have a brain would say, no, that's not a good idea, but he did not. And yeah, he was looking for me to cut a check for him. I'm like, it's not my win, I'm sorry. But what we did was we went out to the AV company and we said, I need a TV as quick as I can. Get it for me, and we made it happen. And you figure the money part out. It's more important that he felt satisfied that I jumped on that fire for him. So slow down. Operations people, we all go a million miles an hour, right? 18-hour days, 7 days a week, that last 2 months before a show, it's nuts. We've got to take a breath and realize, are we really servicing everybody the best way we can? Maybe we're just going so fast we missed a bulletin. Maybe we didn't, make the phone calls. Actually, it's a big thing for me. I love making phone calls to exhibitors the month before a show. How you doing? Are you ready? Do you have your stuff? What are you missing? And they're gonna say, oh man, I didn't book my hotel yet. Which they're all gonna not book their hotel until the end. But those sorts of touches you can remember when you take a breath. Ask your stakeholders for assistance, like the ones that we were talking about earlier. Attend other events. Do you guys attend competitor events? Why not? You're too busy? You're too busy to learn? Well, here's the thing. When you're going there, for me, I'll actually tell you a secret. I would go to all my competitor events. I would plan a day after the show to stay and drive around and visit companies that were in the area. Maybe they weren't at that event, but they were local. So I did 50 visits a year to companies to go visit their offices, their warehouses, and sit down and have that conversation. Let's go do lunch, or maybe they just give you like the 5-minute tour. It really is that quick sometimes. But I learned my trick was to go in during load-in days, because on the show day, they're taking their customers out for dinner. On a load-in day, they don't have customers to take out at dinner, they're my customers. So I would call them up, hey man, I'm coming in 2 days before the show, I'm gonna be there. Oh really? All right, yeah, I'll meet you at the bar that night. So you take them out for dinner. That's when they were available. And they were exhausted and frustrated with that show. And you're like, yeah, vent, tell me all the stuff you hate about that. Let me listen to it. Let me help you. It was a really good trick that worked well for me. And again, you get to see all the customers. You get to see what they're doing. And maybe there's some ideas that you can pilfer. Bring sales calls to customers. That's again, visiting people. And asking vendors for ideas. Talk to your contractors. Ask them what other shows are doing. Even if it's not in your segment, your market space. I was in the theater industry with this last show. I would go to a costume show. I would go to lighting shows. You would go to anything that sort of had like an ancillary area. And believe me, they look totally different. You go to a costume show, they're very stripped down. Pipe and drape, city, and that's it. You walk into a theater or a lighting show, it is like a rock and roll concert exploding. It's everywhere. So you have to, but you can get ideas. Like maybe they've got something really cool that I've never thought about. There was one idea that I actually saw this week that I'm totally stealing. It's in one of the lounges down the hall. They had a trivia wall. It's in the hosted buyer's lounge. Trivia wall. If you're sitting there doing absolutely nothing, I just gave you something to do. And it's fun. I love trivia. I'm a bar trivia person. So I was like, that's such a cool idea. I will totally do that. And I will probably change the graphic every day, so make sure you keep coming back, because I'm going to have some fun. Web developers. They're so important about the attendee experience. And one of the things that I've always noticed is that we all work in silos. Web developers know web development. They do not necessarily know the marketing, the sales, or the content part of it. So they need to be working with the other departments to make sure that they're putting the right information in the right spot and making it accessible for everybody in the right way. It doesn't necessarily always come across as easy. Like we'll see it and go, that is so obvious that the keynote goes on top. And then somebody will be like, yeah, but this guy's got red hair and it totally works with the background of the website. What? But that's the rationale that sometimes happens. And you need to stay on top of that and make sure that everybody's communicating together. And ask why more than how. So, yes, you can just build stuff and put it in there, but is it in the right spot? Am I really conveying the right information in the right way that I expect? The other stakeholders that we talked about, presenters, exhibitors, sponsors, attendees, they are stakeholders, right? We all have a vested interest in the show succeeding. Because if this show, for instance, half the people were here, it's half the networking potential. So we want to see it succeed. All the vendors we talked about and company owners, communicate often and clearly. This is a big piece. Make sure everybody is understanding the same message. That the salesperson is saying exactly the same thing as the marketing people are. Because if you're not on the same brand, matter of fact, I just heard it this week. I was talking with someone who said that their conference team they're saying the expo isn't doing as well. That the conference is the only reason that people come to the show. And I was like, that's internal. That's because you guys haven't come together to say, what's our message? You've got one person on the team who's only promoting and waving the conference flag. Well, we're here for conference, networking, and the expo. You're innately going to fail. Your expo is not going to grow if everybody isn't pushing and promoting all the pieces of the pie. Invite people to visit your office. It's a weird thing, especially with our last office was in Syracuse, New York, which was difficult to get people there. But you can do that, especially if you're in DC, New York, LA, Chicago. Those are easily accessible cities. They're places that your people might be going to anyway. So make sure you're doing that. Create bonds around partnerships. So this is the idea of working with other organizations, other associations, to build your network. Have them vested in your event, that they believe in your event, they're promoting it. I mean, obviously we do marketing trades, where they put an ad in their magazine, we do a list send, that sort of thing. But get them to believe in it. It's one thing for them to take an ad and put it on a piece of paper and put it in the magazine. It's another thing to have them advocate for you when they go to a conference that you're not going to. You can, they'll be saying, hey, are you attending the show? That's a great show. You should totally go to that. Be open and honest. That means telling them the numbers. It's okay. I mean, we're not, unless I guess you're in some sort of a government thing and you can't do it, it's okay to make money. People know the event is there to make money. Even nonprofits, that's where we're making money to pay for everything that we're doing throughout the year. And that was what I would often say. That was my line when they'd say, this is too expensive. You're a nonprofit. It should be all volunteers. Maybe it should be all volunteers. But this is the model that we have. And your revenue is what's paying for everything that we're doing, including the scholarships and grants that we're doing, including all of the research and development that's going on in the industry. You want new things in the industry? We help provide that. That's where their money is going. Tell them where their money is going. Long-term versus immediate thinking, I have some fun graphics, by the way. Being rigid and stringent means you don't care about me. You don't understand my position. So you signed a contract. You owe this amount of money. Maybe, and this actually happened to me, I'm sorry. This happened to me where I had a sponsor cancel on me last minute and cancel his booth. Didn't tell me why. I never asked why. And I was like, man, you owe like $5,000. And we went back and forth on it. He's like, this is crazy. I ended up talking to him a year later. He had already laid off almost all of his staff. I didn't know. He didn't tell me. So I was rigid, but I wasn't intentionally rigid. I was being rigid because it was a contract. I should have been more understanding. I should have said, what's going on? What's going on in your world? I need to understand where you're coming from. And now he's turned it completely around. He's very successful. We have a laugh about it, but it was not a comfortable couple months there. Today's $1,000 is tomorrow's $0 if you're going to be stringent. Now, on the contrary, I'm just throwing some arbitrary numbers here. Today's $500 can equal tomorrow's $500, the year after, the year after. It means that you've accommodated, you've built the relationship, the friendship, the trust that comes along with that. Now, in all honesty, I would say today's $500 is next year's $500, and the year after is $750, and the year after that is $850, and you get back up to $1,000. You got to work your way back up there. But hopefully they've been successful at your show and they can afford that. I love this quote because the word punished more. Because it's not like you're not succeeding. No, you're punished for not being understanding. I thought that was poignant. So how do you change a culture? Make sure everybody is speaking the same language. Make sure everybody's understanding the same goals. So here's a video. And I'm a Red Sox fan, so I apologize for any Yankee fans. But
Roberts is going. Posada's throw. Roberts. Safe. Up the middle. Roberts will come to the plate. The throw.
okay, so what did we learn? Something good happened, right? I know nothing else. I know no context, right? If we get those staff meetings, we come in and somebody says, I had a big sale. What's a big sale? I sold $10,000. Is 10,000 big? Is it little? Your budget could be 10 million. Like, that's great, but it's nothing. You need the context of everything. So when you're in staff meetings, we shouldn't just be going up there and saying, repeating the normal day-to-day. So watch, in the next one, this adds context. So now, this was game 4 of the ALCS. Red Sox haven't won in 86 years. The Yankees won 3 years ago.
A pinch runner, Dave Roberts, is going to come in for
you
Boston.
See the score on the top, right?
He can run. Picked up from the
Yankees are
Dodgers.
up 4-3, bottom of the 9th. Totally different point of view now.
Miller still
Now
waiting
I
for his
see the
first pitch. Roberts is going.
Stealing a base
Posada's
when you haven't won a
throw.
World Series in 86 years. You're in the 9th inning. That's huge. it was stealing a base in April.
Up the middle. Roberts will come to the plate. The throw by Williams. Bill Miller has tied it.
And the rest was history. It was fantastic, let me tell you. So let everybody know the score. Make sure you're posting information in your office. I used to love this. I had a job at EH Publishing where we had a dry erase board right by the door. It said your stats every day as you're walking in and out. This is our reg number, this is our exhibitor number. And you'd see at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, it also said what your goal was. So you could see the trend, and you're coming in, it just totally changes your motivation. Like I can honestly tell you, with the last association I was working for, they didn't ever tell us registration numbers. I dug around and found a login so I could go do it, but it wasn't something that was actively promoted. It wasn't like, hey, we are this close. If we can get that much better, we can get that number that we need to hit. So tell people where you are versus your goal, where you are versus history. One of the things I did, we started last year, we did this cool thing where we used some analytic data, and it had a chart, and it looked fun to every day. I loved looking at it, hit refresh, 6 times a day. I want to see those numbers go up. And it looked so cool, I took a screenshot of it, and I posted it on my LinkedIn. And of course, my LinkedIn has all of my exhibitors on it. And I'm like, check this out. This is where we were last year, this is where we are, this is what we're expecting. They'd see that number, and then I would come out and go to another show, and I'd see them, and they're like, your numbers are awesome. I'm like, I know, right? This is crazy. And what's cool about it is I'm showing you exactly what my eyes are showing you. I'm not manipulating any data. I don't want to lie to you. I want you to come to the show because the show's great, and I'm working my tail off for it. It's cool to do that, and that's being that transparent, showing what's going on out there. And again, be okay with showing revenue. It's one thing with nonprofits, we have to show revenue, but with other organizations, it's okay. Speak one cohesive message. Everyone should know the talking points. The people that are answering your phone in your office, they should know this is the direction we're going, and this is why we're going there. The questions, why did you pick that city? Why did you pick Minneapolis in December? I don't know, maybe there's a reason you picked Minneapolis in December, I wouldn't, but you could. But everybody should know that answer so that there's no surprises. What are the strategies for growth? This was a big one for me because I was going around walking the show and I'm telling people how I'm gonna be getting those attendees there. I could only know that because I was talking to marketing. And marketing and I were in sync. And I was saying, well, we're using Feather this year, and we're using this new analytic data, and we're marketing with all these other partner companies, and you tell them all this, and they're like, wow, man, you guys are busy. Yeah, we are, because we want to see a great show. And like I said, tell people the current numbers. At team meetings, this is what we were talking about. Highlight new changes. Don't talk about the day-to-day stuff. It doesn't matter. Honestly, I really don't care what everybody's, today I'm sending out this email to those people. Don't tell me that. Tell me new stuff that I need to know about. Ask about what are the interdepartment stuff. Hey, I've got a bulletin going on next week, and I have a section that's empty. Operations, you got any ideas? Like, that's the kind of stuff that ends up being really cool and moving your team in the right direction. Don't talk about the whirlwind, is your daily stuff. And then the goal is to turn data into information and information into insight. And I think that goes for all of the data stuff that's going on in the industry. If you have data, that's great, but how are you interpolating? Now, the big one, compensation. I love to see people satisfied. I can tell you that, I'll tell you two fun ones. I was doing 2 shows back to back, Dallas and Los Angeles. We had a day off in the middle in Los Angeles, and our boss was like, you guys have worked really hard, here's $100, just do whatever you want with it. Me and the sales guy, the one that didn't pick up the radio, we went to a Lakers game. It was fantastic. It was 13 years ago. I still remember that $100 trip to go out to the Lakers game. It was awesome. I've never been to go see a Lakers game. I'm a Celtics fan. But on the other side, I had a $5,000 bonus opportunity in my Sigma agreement. I never made that $5,000 bonus opportunity every year. I never knew why. No one ever told me why. It wasn't clearly defined. It didn't tell me what was going on. Matter of fact, here's the worst part. There was one year we took on a new event and we knocked it out in a really short amount of time. And they called us into this office of the CEO and he's like, hey, you guys did a great job. There's gonna be something extra in your paycheck this week. Wow, awesome, did not expect it. We're doing our job. And then at the end of the year, I'm like, my bonus check was short. I'm like, what just happened? Went to HR, and they're like, well, you got that check in May, right? Like, that was my bonus? The one that was promised in my agreement? Now I remember that one 15 years later. You need to make sure that we're doing things correctly, right? So I love to do things like hotel room upgrades. When in Forma, when I used to work there, we had an unofficial policy. New person got the perk upgrade for a suite. Thanks, welcome to the team. Enjoy it. That was really cool. I was in Seattle, I walked in my room, like, I think I got the presenter's room. This is not right. But it was really cool. Why not? Right? We've written them into our contracts. Spa treatments, company tickets, and that stuff. And again, for the stakeholders, why not offer some comp travel? Maybe that's gonna get them motivated. If I can say, you know what, why don't you come to the show? I'll fly you out there, I'll put you up in a hotel room. They might be more willing to be like, hey, these guys are really cool, they're really motivated, and you should be at that show with them. And that's what it's all about. Again, using upgrades, commission plans. I love to incentivize partners. So if I'm working with a magazine and I gave them a comp code and I told them that for every comp registration that uses that code, I'm gonna give you $50 for a conference and $10 for an expo. They're gonna be working hard. Some of those magazines are struggling for money. All they gotta do is put out some social media and maybe they get $2,500. They'll do it. That's an easy one. Special recognitions, any way you can do something. Do you want to make it a public statement that they're doing something special? That's really cool. Vendor and exhibitor incentives. I don't know if anybody does this. I started a campaign a couple of years ago where we were tracking the exhibitor registration codes. And at the end of the year, after the show was over, we randomly pulled some of the highest ones out, and we gave them a free booth or a free sponsorship. Yeah, that was what it was. We had 3 ones. We had if you were a large, a 20 by 20, you got a free sponsorship. If you were a 10 by 20, you got like a free 10 by 20, and then the 10 by 10 got a 10 by 10, something along those lines. So I wasn't like going in the red. So yeah, my budget hurt, but that company was really pumped. And they would, again, you're creating that goodwill. Encourage ingenuity. Not enough of us are doing that where we're always looking at the bottom line. We're looking at, well, you made me more money, I'm gonna recognize you. Maybe you came up with some cool idea that totally changed the show. Right? It might be you found a new vendor here this week. You come back and you're like, these guys are awesome. They're really gonna drive our attendance. That should be rewarded for your hard work, right? Or maybe you created a new program, a new awards program, a new lounge idea, a new sponsorship opportunity, any of that stuff. Make sure you're letting those people know, hey, thanks, and maybe I can do a calling out for you. Again, it goes along with Player of the Game awards, team bonuses. Put it in your budget. Everybody gets a bonus if we hit a certain number, right? You hit 10% over goal, everybody gets, I don't know, 1% or something. Who knows? You come up with some number. That, it rewards that, and everybody gets really excited. And they're looking at that board and they walk in, and they're like, hey, we're so close. We can get there, we can have a pizza party. It'd be amazing. Look at chipwiches, it'd be fun. Operations, maybe you look at it, cost savings, right? Cost savings does the same thing to the bottom line as adding more revenue does. So chip away. Look, maybe there's an ops person that's looking and saying, man, we spent way too much money on this. Why are we doing these last minute orders 3 years in a row that are at way more expensive? Let's try and do that at an earlier part. Catch that and save that money. You can look at accounting. What are they doing with the retentions and the collections? Every show is going to have some money that's going to be outstanding. It's just never going to be collected, but maybe they work a little bit harder to get it. Maybe they make one more phone call, one more email. You look at marketing, look at their web traffic. And that might be the end of it. Anybody else have ideas? What are you guys doing in your days? Are you guys recognizing people? You got any cool programs? Or am I just like up here, pie in the sky? It's very possible it could be that. You guys are quiet. I know it's the last day. You do a team bonus? That's very cool.
I like your enthusiasm for massive chat facilities.
I appreciate that. Thank you. You know what's funny? I hear that actually. It's part of the sales thing, right? Being excited about what you're doing. I love this, and I tell this to a lot of people. We have the coolest job in the world. Last night, I get to ride a helicopter over Las Vegas. Did I ever think I was going to be in a helicopter? Never mind after like 17 beers. It was amazing. You know why I remember it? Video. I was like, this looks like Las Vegas. Get out. Yes?
Or I'd be interested to hear from the group if anyone's had success with the operational thing. You alluded to it, how they're the ones that have to live the rules and there's a lot of familiar words. How's anyone had success trying to get operation for more in the sales mentality?
We do the state selection good, so for each of our events, one side of the hierarchy system, we assign everyone else for the following show. And it used to be only the sales team would get the bonus when we hit goal, and then you start to look and say, hey, operations, this wouldn't happen, but they didn't make the stream go through it. So we started doing operations team gets the bonus as well, and the marketing team, because they're bringing in the exhibitors and sponsors, and now we spread that bonus out to everyone instead of just keeping it in the sales.
Yeah, so much of the satisfaction of exhibitors comes from the operations people, and they never get the credit for it. They're the ones who are running around last minute. Earlier there was the horse race inside where they had I've lost my power, can't find my power, or any of those things. Though that's the ops job. That person is sprinting. We used to ride around with carts, the show management carts, and I was still getting 15,000 steps in a day. I'm like, how is that possible that you can do that mileage? And it's just that our job is to be the service provider. It's to be the face of the person. So I agree. I think that's a good way to do it, is recognize people in the entire group. Otherwise, I don't know how you can't necessarily change a person's personality to become a salesperson. Matter of fact, when I first took on the sales role as an ops person, I was a little paranoid. I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. Turns out I like to talk. Who knew? But originally it was something that I hadn't thought of as a role, as a pathway for me. And if you can get people to think about, if I make that exhibitor happy, that might get them to take a bigger booth next year. Now they have some part of it. They don't have to go out there and like spit out facts. Just be nice. Just be accommodating. Yes, sir.
So I've spent a number of years on the operations side for a convention center. And the way we approach it from operations is to bring the salespeople and the event managers down into operations and have them spend some time with us to fully understand what we did and what we needed from them to make the show successful.
Oh, that'll wake up call, huh?
And we always found that those that did, everything ran smoothly. I had an event manager and a sales manager one time that didn't think that was very good. They promised an event, a customer, their logo was this big balloon. And they said, okay, no problem, we can put that up in the pre-function area. Well, the balloon was 20 feet high, the ceilings were only 25 feet high.
That's fuzzy math.
2 days before the show, we showed up and they said, okay, how are we gonna make this happen? I said, you're not.
Yeah, no.
They said, absolutely not. She's like, what do you mean? I said, our ceiling's not high enough for that. Talk about this called custom.
Yeah.
This was gonna be the showcase.
Yeah, and nobody wants to pay for the jackhammering bill on that stuff. It's, yes.
Also, as someone more similar, I think what I always appreciate is the flip side of it. So the reverse side of that is also being brought in into a new sale or a new idea sooner. To kind of try to work out those kinks before it goes to customer or before it's time back really sold and then the end of that. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, it's sold, it happened, I made it work. It's like, okay, well, we have like a little more conversation about the making it work part. So we can like, oh, we can do that, but like, we might have to do this. So maybe it was a 25-foot version, then we would do it. You know what I mean? Like,
You could do things like bring ops people in on sales calls. That's okay. They can sit there and maybe they chime in and they know you've seen what that exhibitor booth looks like at another show, and you know that it's going to be challenging in the show that you're going, the building you're going into. Maybe it's got lots of columns and they need free space. Bring the ops person in, answer those questions right there on the spot, even with the prospect. That kind of builds that relationship between the two.
And the site visits also.
Yep, site visits for sure. Yeah, we used to have a sales guy go on our site visits with EH Publishing. He would kind of walk with us at the beginning, so we at least got the idea of the venue, and then he would go off and do sales calls. But he would see my train of thought as I'm walking through it, and I've got the laser measurement and trying to figure things out. Yeah, that relationship between the two, the ops and sales, maybe it's just a way to put them together for a day or two. It could be a good bond. Any other thoughts? Yes, sir.
I'm not in school card.
Yes.
You mentioned that we have these papers that doesn't need to be.
I don't think.
This is a good, everybody's gonna do that.
Yeah.
This is a mom.
Well, yes. All right. I mean, within reason. You don't want to. Do I want to put that my show just had a 20% hit? No, I don't want to post that. You can get creative with numbers. I mean, I'm not ever suggesting lying. I'm suggesting putting the best face forward. So I agree. But the overall point is transparency. It's being honest with the exhibitor about who is coming to the show. What I can tell you, we're at the very end. One of the things I was doing last year was sending out an email to a prospect, pulling out registration data and saying it wasn't like 500 people are coming. It was, you're a lighting company. 972 people have clicked on registration indicating that they're interested in lighting. Of the 972, 543 have indicated they have purchasing power. Of those, 262 are over the age of 35. I am telling you what's going on. If you decide not to be there, that's your decision. But the transparency, I'm not lying, I'm not inflating any numbers, and it's not just like 500 people or 1,000 people. So I guess that's it. I headlined Expo Expo. I'm thrilled about this. So you all traveling home today? Tomorrow? Me too? No, not really. I'm staying all weekend. Thanks a lot, guys. This was fun.